Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo. This is episode 133, and we review the Marvels. We might just abruptly start singing our thoughts, so stay tuned. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentleman.
I am the gentlest of man.
There's
Hello.
only one
Hello,
gentleman staring back at me with unkempt hair.
The last man standing.
Kempt.
I have bested Savon. He's done.
Savon is doing family time, turkey time out in New Orleans, and couldn't be here with us today. But the two of us, we made you, the listener, a priority. So we are here. We went and did the homework.
You just said Savon did not make them a priority.
He did
Well,
not.
actually, that's probably true.
He made his family a priority, which is what he should be doing right now.
Yeah, he's way cooler than the two of us, so I can't hate on that, man. Let that
Brian,
man live.
We're coming off of Thanksgiving. How did you celebrate? Did you have any good food?
We had lots of food. I've been taking dumps multiple times a day.
Hey, that's the best part of Thanksgiving.
I think that's a telltale sign that there's a lot of food. It's delicious. And Wes, I'm worried about you.
I take multiple dumps almost every day.
Did you have good stuff?
Good stuff. We had a smoked turkey this year. Jeff, my brother-in-law, smoked turkey. Mother-in-law baked a ham. Delicious, very sweet, juicy.
A turkey and a ham.
Yeah, we had both going on there. And the turkey came out great. I loved it.
Was the ham also smoked? Was the
No.
turkey smoking the ham and the ham was smoking the turkey?
I
on
mean,
the basketball court.
What they do behind closed doors is their business. I don't know. I don't want to comment on that.
Well,
The not winner of the day was Jen made was asked, I think, or maybe she volunteered to make cranberry sauce, like, actual cranberry sauce. I think maybe 2 or 3 people took part in it. Not that many.
2 or 3 people ate it, or 2 or 3 people helped her make it?
No, 2 or 3 people ate it out of the 20 to 25 people that were there.
So what you're saying is that Wes, as the dutiful husband,
yeah,
you basically took the bowl of cranberry sauce and chugged it to show how much you loved her.
I poured it over my head in celebration. It was
cranberry.
Exactly.
That's
it was good though.
amazing.
I had some and I put it on my turkey. It was great. There was some gravy too, and that was good.
We forego all of that.
Good stuff.
No cranberries. No cranberries at our house.
Do you do any Filipino food?
We do some. My mom makes some pancit, which are noodles.
Yeah,
Filipino noodles. She also does a pancit molo, which is like a dumpling soup.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Not very common. No,
it's a little specialty
in Filipino. At Filipino gatherings, I've only ever seen my mom make it. And I was asking her about it too. I was like, "Is this even a thing? Did you make this up? Like dumplings?"
Hey, she's chef de cuisine.
It's amazing.
Dr. Redondo.
That was my favorite thing on the menu.
What can that woman not do? What can she not do? Sounds like she can do everything.
She probably can't produce sperm.
Well,
I think that's in the no column for her.
All right, moving on.
I'm pretty sure about that. But I did want to say we carried on our family Thanksgiving tradition.
Okay, what was that?
Which is a recent one. It is the T. Hanksgiving marathon that we do, which means we watch exclusively Tom Hanks movies.
Oh,
during Thanksgiving weekend,
and not like David S. Pumpkin video clips over and over again, or whatever.
That could enter the realm, but it's a little late for David S. Pumpkins.
Sure.
So I love a good David S. Pumpkins. But we watched.
All right, what movie did you watch?
We pulled deep into his bag.
Okay.
We watched Splash, which I've never seen before.
Yep.
Kind of funny.
Okay.
Who's
the mermaid in that one?
Daryl Hannah.
Oh, that's right.
The only woman ever to be named Daryl. And
Claim to fame.
I mean, what were they? Are they Mets fans? Daryl Strawberry? Like, I don't know what her parents were thinking. Anyway, but why not? Why not?
Okay.
Someone could be named Daryl.
Did you watch more Tom Hanks?
We also last night watched Punchline, which was like from
Never heard of it.
1982 or something.
Is that his breakout movie or something?
It might be
his debut.
It's him and Sally Field as emerging stand-up comics in New York City.
Oh, nice.
And it's actually pretty good for the first half. Then they throw in the unnecessary love story between the two leads, and the movie takes this weird turn, and you're like, well, I guess some studio executive got their way, because that was terrible.
Yeah. You sound cynical, though. You know, you don't love the love story. You don't want to listen to your own niece play her piano and perform for you over Zoom.
We talked about that before we started recording. But no. Why? Do we have to do that?
Just enjoy
do we
the
all
moments
have
of
to
life?
stop what we're doing to watch somebody play the piano poorly?
It's not somebody, it's your
FaceTime?
niece.
It's over FaceTime.
A kid you supposedly, love.
Hey,
maybe,
I'm supportive.
Okay.
I'm supportive. She can keep taking those lessons. But we just did this like a few months ago.
No, you didn't. When did you just do this?
We did this a few months ago when she visited in person.
That was a few months ago.
And demanded that there be a recital. And so all the adults had to plan their day around it. Why? Why do we do these things? She's no Herbie Hancock, all right?
We can't all be Kenny G and Michael Bolton, man. I'm just telling you. All right, let's get into it. This episode is going to be about The Marvels, MCU's newest movie, starring Carol Danvers, Kamala Khan, Monica Rambeau. But we also want to take a step back because honestly, it's been a little bit since we've seen the things that actually you need to see before you see this movie, or it would be helpful to see before you see this movie. So I wanted to go over that real quick. For instance,
yeah, we should, because I did not know what was happening.
It was a little bit confusing in the beginning. So it would be helpful before you see this movie if you watch some of WandaVision, especially the latter half of WandaVision.
Oh, yeah.
Although if you're watching WandaVision and you've only seen the second half, like the first half, that wouldn't make sense. So you got to watch the whole thing. Because that's where Monica Rambeau, Captain Rambeau, really gets her powers, and you kind of see, what's going on there. You also would be helpful to go back and watch the Ms. Marvel series if you haven't seen that one, because that kind of explains, all of Kamala Khan's, origin story and how she became who she is, and also great moments with her family as kind of the superhero support system.
Who play a big role in this movie.
They also come into play in this one. They end up in space. Like, heck, that's crazy. And then Endgame kind of is helpful to know, because that's the last time we really see Ms. Marvel do some badassery, right? And that was what, 2019, 2018, something like that. When was Endgame? I don't even know.
Ages ago.
Yeah.
It was pre-pan.
It's it's kind of crazy though. You have to go back to like WandaVision was 2020, is that right? And Endgame was 2019. You have to go back to then to see like stuff you kind of need for this movie that's happening now at the very end of 2013 or 2023. I mean, MCU just really like trying to pull from all different places. It makes it actually a pretty disjointed kind of start, disorienting.
Not to mention that the Captain Marvel movie itself.
Very
long time ago.
Yeah.
Maybe
when was
not.
That was before Infinity War and Endgame. So
correct,
that was a while ago.
Correct. And that movie takes place in the 80s or 90s or something like that in continuity.
I think 80.
So then
early 90s, maybe.
There's a big gap between
Blockbuster
Captain Marvel's movie and when she shows up in an Endgame, right?
Yep.
And we never get a real explanation to what she's doing in between for decades. And not to mention Captain Marvel, the first movie, if I'm being honest, wasn't the greatest. It was fine.
It was fine. Yeah.
But is her backstory and character all that memorable?
Yeah.
Coming 6 years later, I was a little bit lost jumping
Okay.
into this movie. I
I think her
didn't remember.
backstory is very memorable. Like the main crux of it, right? Of her being a human who was somehow like imbued with powers and then kidnapped and then her memory wiped and then now she thinks she's Kree. Like I think that all I remembered, even though I'm not a good memory person, but I did remember that. We don't have Savon here to be our data bank, but he
I'll take your word for it, Wes.
I
didn't
feel like
remember
that's
all that.
memorable. No, I mean that was like the whole point of the movie was that like she had been betrayed by the Kree and raised as if she was Kree. And in this movie, we get a little bit more discussion about what she had been up to in that intervening time, which has kind of some ramifications within this movie. So Brian is right, I think, that we sort of don't get to see it, though. We don't really know what's going on or like why she's feeling the way she's feeling until she talks about it. But we don't get to see it.
Wes, I'm the only
show,
person
don't tell.
here. I'm the only person here. You don't have to refer to me in the third person.
All right, moving on.
Woo!
So,
more sound effects.
All right, what is the most outrageous way you can think, Brian, to give us the premise for the movie for those of the people who haven't seen it but want to know, like, what am I getting into? Because the trailers, I don't think, are very clear. So, what are we getting into here in the beginning of the movie?
I don't know if this is the most outrageous, but
I want the most accurate.
Outrageous. This is the most accurate.
No, that's boring.
It's Freaky Friday with superheroes. That's
okay.
it. It's Freaky Friday. This movie could star Lindsay Lohan.
Who's Lindsay Lohan in this movie?
All three of them. I don't know. Jamie Lee Curtis could be in this movie. It's
Samuel L. Jackson is Jamie Lee Curtis.
He might be. He might be. I think they're on the same rung of Hollywood legend.
Okay, all right.
The Hollywood legend ladder. Anyway, Freaky Friday. It basically Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, Spectrum, or Monica Rambeau, whatever you want to call her.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't go by that call sign in this movie. They
she does not.
Deal of that.
They make a gag out of it. Ms. Marvel is trying to find a good name for her, which is fun and cute. Yeah. They, for a reason that they discover later, are swapping places. They're not swapping bodies, so that right. A little different from Freaky Friday in that way. Though maybe that would be interesting.
Their bodies physically switch places from where they were.
Switch places from where they were. So you have Spectrum or Monica Rambeau, who's at the Saber
space station thing.
Space station, right? Just above Earth. You have Ms. Marvel, who's at home in her childhood bedroom drawing cartoons. And then you have Captain Marvel, who's off somewhere far into the galaxy, fighting Kree. And whenever one of them whenever two of them use their abilities at the same exact moment, they do a switch. So suddenly Ms. Marvel is out in space fighting Kree, and Monica Rambeau is in Jersey City, and then Captain Marvel is suddenly at Saber. And they don't know exactly what's going on. And that keeps happening to both hilarious and terrifying effect for each of them.
It's a good thing that Ms. Marvel, or actually Captain Rambeau, never switched places with Captain Marvel while she was in space without a suit in unatmospheric conditions. They would have just asphyxiated and died.
Fiend. It would, like, the movie would be done at like 10 minutes.
No, then you'd have to figure out how to like reverse time and bring them back. It would have been a whole time heist again. More Loki.
They would resurrect Tony Stark to help them figure it out.
You got it.
I'd watch that movie.
So, how did you end up watching this one? I went to a theater. I was off this week for Thanksgiving break, so I ended up seeing like a really early daytime show, like 11:15 or 11:30, something like that.
Were you the solo rider in the whole theater?
Yeah. I went by myself. But there was 3 or 4 other groups in there watching the movie as well. But mostly an empty theater. I mean, it was a pretty big theater to have, just the like 12 of us or whatever in there, 8 of us. I'm not sure how many people are in there.
Did you sit right next to one of those groups?
Did not.
Can I be?
Did not.
Can I be
I had a whole row by myself. Although, did I sit in my assigned seats? I did. That fits into my science seat.
You had me going. I thought I was about to say Renegade West, but
no,
true to
I'm a rule
form,
follower.
Wes.
Yeah.
True to form.
I mean,
Wes.
I picked a seat pretty central to where I wanted to sit anyway. So I was like, well, why would I change my seat? No one's sitting next to me right now, so I'm good. I'm gonna claim this. My seat is my seat, and if somebody sat right next to me, though, I'd be like, "What are you doing? Why?
Would you be like, that's my seat? I'm sitting in the wrong seat. You're in my seat.
All right, how did you end up watching it?
Do people care in a theater? And I saw it on a Monday night.
Okay.
With Anna and my sister. They were a little drunk.
Nice.
They had dinner.
I feel like that. What?
They had dinner while I was at a networking event, and then we met up to watch the movie.
Okay, how does that explain the drunkenness?
Because they had wine at dinner. You don't get drunk at dinner?
Okay.
Come on, Wes, live a little. and it was a pretty packed theater.
Oh, nice.
Surprisingly.
I feel like that makes the experience better. I feel like my experience
on
was
a Monday
subdued because we didn't.
Well, that's the
theater.
thing. Like, my slightly inebriated sister is laughing. Well, no one else in the theater is, and I feel embarrassed.
Okay, all right. So that it made it a little negative in the column there, or in the negative column.
I mean, I don't know. At least somebody was enjoying the movie.
Yeah,
outwardly.
All right. So spoilers now to follow. People listening at home, you now exactly understand what you need to know to start the movie if you want to go watch it. So go watch it and then come back and listen. Just kidding. You guys have still no idea what this movie is about. It's okay. Just go watch it. We had no idea either when we went to go see it, and it worked out fine. So, Brian, let's just get the big stuff out of the way. Did you enjoy the movie? Why?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, it was fine. It was good.
Okay. Yeah.
It was entertaining in the moments meant to be entertaining. It was a little eyebrow raising at a couple moments where you're like, well, didn't think they were gonna take it there.
Okay.
And
it's spoilers. Is there anything in particular you were like, ooh, wait, what?
Well, the planet, the water planet, where the language is sung, not spoken,
right?
And suddenly we were in a Disney musical.
Yeah,
was a little awkward.
Oh, okay. I loved it.
It was one of those things where I was like, okay, they're running with this.
Yeah,
that's
commit to the bit.
Kudos to them. Maybe
no.
Oddly enough, though, I didn't mind it as much as I hated the music note battle in the last Doctor Strange movie. Which
I thought you liked that. Me and you were against that.
We talked about it. I was really anti.
I thought it was stupid.
That scene.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, when they make this real sharp turn in the Marvels, I didn't mind as much. But maybe it's because maybe we're not as invested in the Marvels as we are in Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. But so also tonally the movies, very different. So for Doctor Strange, it felt odd. Yeah. In this movie,
like it's very dark and serious.
You can tell that the Marvels is pretty light fare.
Right.
Very early on. This is light fare, and it's okay for being light fare, I guess. And there's, I think Ms. Marvel's stand out to me. She's very entertaining, and her and her family carry the movie quite a bit. And so, in those aspects, the movie's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Where were you at with it?
The Bollywood stuff was kind of funny to me. I thought it was cool because, I not wanting to make too many assumptions here, but, Kamala Khan is supposed to be Bangladeshi, right? So she's probably familiar with...
I think she's supposed to be Pakistani.
Is she Pakistani? So she's probably familiar with some of the ideas and tropes in, like, Bollywood movies that, like, song and dance just kind of break out, and, like, that's okay. So
there was no mention of Bollywood. What are you talking about?
No, but... You don't think it was Bollywood inspired in that way?
No, it was a musical. It's just a musical. It's not Bollywood.
All right, I thought it was Bollywood.
This is a stretch, man.
They have like the coordinated dancing and stuff when they're entering.
Yeah, it's called a musical.
All right. Well, I didn't mind it. I think it wasn't too long. Yeah, it didn't overstay his welcome. To me, I enjoyed it, and then it was funny because then they were like, "Oh, you could just talk regular too," and then the rest of the movie was regular with the prince guy. Um, and just like kind of hilarious that Brie Larson, super like I don't know, stoic, serious character. Had to put on a silly hat and deal with a very silly world and um, you know, fish out of water kind of thing going on there. In general,
I guess.
I really did like the movie. I had pretty low expectations, which I think helped because I wasn't really sure
Agreed.
what it was going to be going in. None of the three are probably like one of my favorite characters that I've seen so far in the MCU, but I was interested to see where they would take it. And I'm kind of glad that it was very un-Secret Invasion. I thought there was a chance they were gonna like really continue the story of Secret Invasion in some way or something like that, but they didn't. So that was great for me. I was like, "Oh, good, thanks. Woo, we don't have to deal with any of that nonsense."
It was like it never happened, right?
Yeah, which is great. I was okay with that. It's fine. I'm
And
okay if Secret Invasion never happened.
it does beg the question whether or not this was supposed to take place before Secret Invasion, after.
I don't know.
Maybe they will uncanonize Secret Invasion.
They should. It was bad. It's very bad. Very bad. All right. Also, I thought one thing I wanted to really kind of give kudos on, not that this is like groundbreaking stuff, but the fights and the action sequences were really inventive because they could use this like teleportation power. And it wasn't like they were experts right away and they knew how to coordinate their moves and stuff. Like they really showed them like really fucking it up when they were fighting, and then just like getting walloped because like they kept doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. So I like that. And then they had to grow over time.
Training montage,
Right? It was great. And then they knew how to use it, and it was cool.
And then when they finally use it, I think that was probably one of the most inventive on-screen fights in a very long time that I've seen.
Yeah. So it wasn't like Daredevil hallway fight.
Point.
Yeah, it wasn't Daredevil hallway fight level, but it was still good. It was fun. It felt like there was like real danger in it, but you also felt like they had earned, their abilities kind of at that point. There were some emotional moments. I don't know if those landed with you, Brian. Maybe I wanted to talk about that with you because I felt like some of them were really good.
Okay. Can we cue some sound effect like a wow wow wow?
Let me see if I got one here. I think we could just have you do it. No, I don't have one. Yeah, we don't have one. That's it. That's the closest we've got to that.
That's how the emotional moments felt like to me.
To me, there was some that were meaningful and that they were, especially like the parts where Captain Rambeau and Captain Marvel had to kind of sort out their feelings about how they weren't really like feeling worthy of each other, right? Captain Marvel talks about how she didn't feel like she could come back having accomplished sort of the opposite of what she was trying to. She felt like she had failed as a superhero, failed as someone who her niece could look up to, basically. And her niece feeling like I was abandoned by, my aunt, and not knowing how to approach and say like, hey, this is what I needed from you and whatnot. And so I thought there were some like good actual vulnerable moments there that were meaningful. So I enjoyed some of those. And then I think it was cool that there's actual consequences in this movie. So in the interim, like before we get to this movie, Captain Marvel says that she was trying to overthrow the Kree Empire, which we kind of see at the end, right, of Captain Marvel 1. But it sets into motion kind of the end of the Kree planet and homeworld because it messes up their sun, it messes up all these things, and she's like, oh damn, like that's not at all what I intended, right? It's very like unintended consequences here of what she thought she was doing, and what ends up happening is she ends up being a really kind of demonized entity on the Kree homeworld of Hala.
What do they call her? The Annihilator?
Annihilator? Was that what it was?
Or something like that.
Yeah, and she hates it, right? She's like really ashamed of that because in some ways she knows that it's true, right? She ended a lot of the prosperity and livelihoods of millions or billions of people on this planet, and that wasn't what she wanted, right? She thought that she was liberating them and ended up, very much putting them in a precarious position. So consequences there, although in some ways I could undo that and say, well, like there weren't any consequences by the end because she like saved the world by like punching the sun.
Yeah, it's like, oh wait, I could just save the planet by restarting the sun. I had that ability the whole time. That was so, that was so dumb.
That was dumb. That was fine.
She like, oh, oops, I ended this planet.
Yeah.
I could have fixed it because
She
I
didn't
have
know.
all this like,
She didn't know.
what the heck?
Who would think that?
But the way that it played out in the movie, like, I
Yeah.
think all these points that you're making at face value sound interesting and worthy to delve into, but the way that they are executed in the movie really undercuts all of them.
All right.
Like,
I think that's
fair. she just flies into the sun and it's like, oh my god, like all the Kree can breathe again, everything's better. Like,
I was okay with that.
It was, and it happened in the span of 30 seconds.
I don't know. I was fine with
it. It was silly, and this, I could say the same
I didn't
thing
take off
too
any
about.
I didn't take off any points for it. I really did was just like, all right, that's cool. Like that's what superheroes should do.
It could be much cooler, right? Like,
it could have been much cooler.
They could have crafted a whole movie around this idea that Captain Marvel messed up, is in a really bad headspace because of it, and has to find some sort of redemption. Like that I think that would be a really interesting movie.
We saw
this
that
movie was not
bad. Called Love and Thunder.
Was it? Did Love and Thunder have a plot? I don't even remember what that movie was about, except for Natalie Portman's bicep.
Oh, that was
nice. And I'm glad you added the sound effect to that, because
it's an audio format.
I mean, like, you saying that was nice would have come off as a little, lascivious, is what I'm saying. But the whole Monica Rambeau auntie and niece story, like, again, that's something maybe could have had more heft, and I would have believed it more. But a lot of it was just like,
not you, because you hate your niece.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not the target market for this, Brian.
I love my niece, but somebody's got to put her in her place, all right? And if I have to step in that role, so be it. I will take the hit.
You'll do what you have to do. You'll do what must be done.
Yes. For moral order.
Wait, can I say one more thing before you keep going?
Yeah. Go.
In terms of consequences, there's also a consequence for quote unquote winning at the end of this. I don't know that everybody's seen the. We're gonna talk about it anyways. If you haven't seen the movie, it's just, this is spoilers. There's a consequence, right? Rambeau saves. Victory. Yeah, well, not Pyrrhic. It's just, unlike Ant-Man Quantumania, she saves the world or saves the universe from imploding, but in the process gets stuck in a different dimension by herself, isolated without any clear, way home or way to survive or anything. And she's stuck there. And actually stuck there, rather than
believes it's a sacrifice.
Yeah, rather than going to, the quantum realm and then not getting stuck there and just back to where you were and like
reset. Yeah, good point. Very good point. I agree.
So I love that. Not loved. I thought lesson learned there for them. They were like, oh, we actually do have to have a consequence here if we're going to sacrifice somebody and call it a sacrifice in the movie. So good on them for not running away from that. But that actually leads them to kind of a cool post-credit scene, which we'll talk about later. Oh, did you see that tease? It's like, I'm a professional, Brian.
Cue the whoosh.
All right. If you were going to add or subtract, I guess you could subtract, one element or character from the movie, what's the change you're going to make, Brian?
Captain
This
Marvel.
is where you get to complain about something.
Let's cut out Captain Marvel herself. What
this is her movie. What do you mean?
Why does she suck as a character? Marvel? She just sucks, right?
Why?
Am I alone on this island here?
I don't mind her.
She's too powerful.
Yeah,
so
I think that's the biggest complaint.
She's one OP'd,
okay.
Right? She can start a sun. She can. We've seen it now. She can start a sun. So that's the baseline.
Heal a relationship with her niece. So she's not OP all the way.
She's OP, and we don't care about her relationships. I think that's the issue.
Okay.
I think that can be fixed. That can be resolved by a different type of story, better writing, but also maybe Brie Larson's portrayal in this particular Marvel's movie felt awkward. Did you not feel that? Like when they do a group hug, it's like, oh, Ms. Marvel hugs Monica Rambeau and it's really earnest. And she's like, come on, Captain Marvel, you too, hug us. And Captain Marvel gloms onto the group hug and just has this really weird blank stare. And
But that was the point.
it's just like I I don't get this character, and
Right.
I don't know why we're invested. We like the movie and the movies. I don't know. They haven't built enough into Carol Danvers, I think,
Right.
and that is a shortcoming. And so, really, to me, the true heart of the movie, and I think most people will probably agree that it's Ms. Marvel who is pushing the movie along, right? Because she's so fun and bubbly and charming. And
Just like
and it
you.
does grate a little. It does grate a little, like
Yeah.
because yeah, it
It's a lot.
it can be a little bit one note in this movie.
Mhm.
But her together with her family, I think they're fully lived characters relative to everybody else around them in this
Yeah, I don't know
particular
if I'd go
movie.
all the way that far, but yeah,
I mean, relative
yeah,
to Monica Rambeau, who's also a sketch of a character, relative to Nick Fury
wow,
in this, who's a
sketch of a
sketch.
character.
Like they're not really given too much, right? Whereas Ms. Marvel, seems like a teenager. Seems like somebody who's excited to be there, has a lot of energy, and
I
to
teach
me brings a
teenagers
livelihood.
that is not how they act. They're
Well,
never excited to be anywhere.
the ones off their Ritalin. Um,
Well, so I've read or saw there was a review that I wish I remember who the writer was, but they were saying that they really didn't enjoy or connect with the way that Brie Larson played Captain Marvel. They really wanted more like depth, emotion, personality to her. Is that kind of what you're getting at here?
yeah, I think that would be appreciated. And like I read another thing which I agree with is that I hate that the MCU formula is to try to make everybody quippy and sarcastic, and they try to do that a little bit with Captain Marvel here, and I don't think that works at
Yeah.
all. Like the character is not that. I think Brie Larson's performance is not that, and they should really just lean into her being different from the other superheroes. And because of her power set and her backstory,
Yeah.
she could be radically different from all the other heroes where maybe she's super emo, doesn't really know how to be a hero, maybe struggles with her powers. I think all those things would
I
be
was
way more
looking for
interesting than the version that
more,
we get in the
I
Marvels,
think,
where they try to
development
put her
of that. So
together with more
I think
slapsticky type
I
characters
was
like
okay if the
Ms.
beginning of the
Marvel, right?
movie
Because
Captain
she's got that
Marvel was
like
like
teen fangirl energy.
very, yeah, kind of
Um,
disconnected.
they like
She's,
she
I mean,
doesn't
if you
need
think
a
about
match.
like where she's been, right?
Captain
Like
Marvel doesn't
she
need a match.
was
She can
basically found
she
out
can
that
be
her whole
the
backstory was a
complete
lie, or
opposite,
her whole
and
memory
I
like
think
of
that
her
would
life was
be
a
a much
lie.
more
That's pretty
interesting
jarring
watch
for someone,
and a
right? And they
better
kind of go
journey for
into that
them.
in this movie and certainly a little bit in the last movie. Um and then she spends most of like Endgame and Phase 5 or 4, whatever, I don't know what phase we're in. She's out in space doing things pretty solo. She ends up fucking up like one of her hero jobs right here that she really was invested in. She wanted the people of, Hala to be free. Messes it up like we talked about earlier. And so she's certainly got a crisis of confidence in terms of being, like you said, being a hero. She is ashamed of her resume so far, and she's also not really around people. She doesn't know how to connect to people. Her only friend is Goose, who's a flirkin who just swallows things up whole rather than talking about any kind of feelings. So she lives most of her life in a spaceship. I mean, I think it makes sense that she doesn't know how to connect with her family, right? Like Monica Rambeau saying you left and you never came back, and it's like, yeah, but also like she doesn't remember
Yeah,
really being your
exactly. And
aunt.
it's like, come on, who
you
cares?
know? So like I get that. And I get why it would be upsetting to Monica, but I also get why she's bad at this, right? Like she doesn't know who she is anymore. And so that makes sense to me. I didn't like that didn't set off any alarm bells that she didn't know how to hug or like what the situation needed. She's never been really emotionally attached to anybody, and that wasn't the Kree specialty either, right? They were not particularly emotionally like open, vulnerable people, or at least not the group she was hanging out with in the military. So I think it makes sense that they had to like bring in two people who were emotionally connected to other people and to her to help guide her on that little bit of journey. The problem was for me is they didn't actually invest in that enough.
Yeah, she's just awkward, and you're left dealing with that.
So yeah, so they have like they had like a pretty serious like clash where her and Captain Rambo or Monica Rambo are talking about like what's bothering them, and then they like kind of crash land on something on like on a planet or something, and they're like, okay, all good, we're good, high five, and now they're like connected, and they're like, yeah, we're all good, this is great, you know, and like there wasn't anything that was an impetus besides that like short conversation of explaining like where they were coming from that really showed how they were going to like navigate that path forward. They just sort of crash landed and were like, okay, cool, we're good now. And man, like what a waste of that. To me, it felt like a waste of that really actual juicy conflict that could have been, you know, happening throughout the movie. And instead they solved it in the first, I don't know, 40 minutes of the movie. And it got solved what seemed like in 10 seconds, you know, by just them landing on a planet. I don't know if there was some scenes cut out maybe that would have led to there, because the movie was pretty short. Did you notice it was, I think, hour and 45 of runtime?
It felt very breezy.
Yeah,
regardless,
which I'm okay with.
Time,
I don't think I don't think every movie needs to be 2.5 hours long, but that may be one area where maybe that particularly suffers because they made the choice to make such a shorter movie. Also, maybe some of the things around like punching the sun, that might have been also a
let's punch the sun.
That might have been an hour and 45 minute also problem, where they were trying to get through that issue quicker. Not sure.
Also, another plot point that deserved more of a fair shake, right? Like, just here's a dying planet. How do we solve that? That's a whole nother interesting thing. But you can tell that this movie, for the most part, is thinking of itself as light. And that's sort of why all these things feel superficial ultimately.
Yeah, I think that's true. Sort of. I mean, yeah, but not everything can get 40 minutes of screen time to develop, right? Like there's just
that's why you got to shave some shit. I can't say that. Shave some shit.
Seashells by the seashore. All right, let's get to the endings, because there were some interesting little happenings at the end here.
Arguably the most interesting parts of the movie.
No, that's not true. What did you think? First, let's talk about, so at the end of the movie, wait, which one is the end of the movie? Is it the Beast one?
It's Ms. Marvel.
It is, right? It's Ms. Marvel. Okay, so Ms. Marvel ends up breaking into, what's her name? Kate Bishop's apartment or something like that, and approaching her about forming up as a team. What did you think about that?
Very
Young Avengers kind of coming to the scene.
Yeah, very, very Nick Fury style, right? She's doing her best imitation of Sam Jackson, you know, entering.
Didn't she put on a disguise too, like a hat or something?
I think she was shrouded in shadow momentarily. I don't think she had an eye patch on or anything like that. But she had the fancy touchscreen device, which had the dossier on Kate Bishop. And
a nice little callback,
and is inviting her to join a team. And I did not realize that they were trying to do a Young Avengers thing, but it seems like that's where this is going. And Ms. Marvel says she is putting together a team of like super powered people, young people, and so she's going after Kate Bishop, the new Hawkeye. She's probably going to go after Wanda's boys, right? I believe.
Oh, you think so?
They are probably in the mix somehow.
They're in the wrong multiverse, though.
Well, we also know that the multiverse thing is going to happen. All right, all these characters coming into
and
play.
Then Cassie from Ant-Man.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's her name.
Yes,
should probably join.
Structure? Is that her name? Something like that.
Is that her? She's Structure?
Yes.
All right, she's in Marvel Snap. I don't know. She's not a good card. Um, so she's probably not a good character in the movie either.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. All right. So what'd you think?
So she's
I thought it was
they're
cool.
going for these things. So it is a little awkward to me though that okay, so Ms. Marvel's gonna round up a team of young Avengers.
Sure. Okay.
While I forget her name, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character
Yeah. Thunderbolts
is also rounding up a group of misfitting superheroes.
Uh-huh.
Is there going to be like a third one of like Sam Jackson rounding up the new Avengers squad? Also, like it's all sort of the same thing happening multiple times over. It's a little awkward.
What if all of these people are really just gathering up their group so that they can join an a cappella singing show, competition show, hosted by Nick Lachey and judged by the guy from Boys to Men? I think it could happen.
I'd watch that. 100% watch that. My money's on the Young Avengers
competition show, by the way, guys. It did happen. That's how we got the Pentatonics, if you've ever heard the Pentatonics. All right. So it sounds like we both like Young Avengers. The perhaps, I don't want to say bigger, but kind of more, like set my heart aflutter was at the end of the movie or in the post-credit scene, Monica Rambeau wakes up after having been yeeted into a different multiverse.
Yeeted? She was yeeted?
Yeah. She wakes up and looks at Hank McCoy, the Beast himself, who is nursing her back to health or something, or she's in some kind of like lab or medical facility. And then we see her mom, who she hasn't seen since her mom, since she blipped, since Captain Rambeau blipped and her mom was sick with cancer. And then because she blipped and her mom died, she actually never got to say goodbye to her mom. And so she sees her and has this outpouring of emotion. And it turns out that this is not her mom because she's in a different multiverse. This is actually a superhero I've never heard of called Binary, who is an analog and an offshoot, something of Captain Marvel. Brian looked it up on Wikipedia.
Apparently, Captain Marvel had a photon projection of herself, and that projection took on some of Captain Marvel's own memories and personality or whatever, and became another being called Binary.
Nice. All right. Do we? Oh, and in the comics, you said she doesn't talk.
Yes. So I don't remember.
But we think she had a line in this movie.
I thought she did,
I was saying I don't think
maybe
she
did. She didn't. But she clearly does not remember Monica Rambeau, right?
Were you also drunk during this movie?
I did come from a networking event beforehand,
so possibly. But so what's interesting, I mean, obviously what's interesting to this is now we're really starting to cross this, like the Fox 21st century Fox, whatever, the Fox stuff, X-Men properties are now really dovetailing with MCU. So, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, even though supposedly he had already done his last Wolverine movie, is now back, and he's going to be with Deadpool, and they're going to be crossing over into the MCU in some way. So there's just going to be, and we've already seen Professor X in
a version
what
of
was
him
that Multiverse?
In Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. With our good guy, what's his name? I can't remember his name.
Mr. Fantastic?
Patrick Stewart?
Oh, Patrick Stewart as Professor X, yeah.
Yeah, right. The iconic version of Professor X. So all of these, all of the X-Men that were with Fox are now starting to make their way into these little tiny scenes and small places, which obviously lends itself to a big crossover at some point where everybody can exist in the same universe in some way. Someone was saying Battle World maybe will come out of this or something like that in the future. I don't know what that is, but it sounds cool.
Well, in the Doctor Strange movie, right, we get Professor X, but it's more as a tease than anything else, right? Because Wanda dispatches Professor X and all the other people from that particular Earth very quickly and easily at that, right? So we know that's not the version that we're going to get. And then so for Monica to wake up in this other dimension or other universe, whatever, to hear not that it's Beast taking care of her, and not only Beast,
but which version, Brian?
But he's the feline version of Beast. In the comics, there's sort of like there's the older Beast, and then he kind of evolves into a more feline type, but voiced by Kelsey Grammer,
Hey, good
Fraser
old
himself, who played Beast in the early 2000s, in the first trilogy of the X-Men. So it's not.
He was old then. He's got to be really old now. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
way
haven't
too
seen a
old to be
recent picture
playing
of him.
Beast. But this Beast
He's not
was
going to be doing his own
completely
stunts, ladies and
CG.
gentlemen.
This was a completely CG Beast.
But it was still him.
This was not. Well, I think in the older movies, it's him in a lot of
Oh, in
makeup.
prosthetic.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
No, but this was
is
him,
very
but it was his
CG.
performance. You could tell it. You could tell it was him.
I mean, yeah, sure, it's him, but like it's
Yeah.
not.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Not him.
And he's standing. He refers to Charles, I believe, and he's standing in front of a big X door, a silvery X door that looks a lot like
not a big ass door, a big X.
A big X door. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually you wouldn't enter a door that had an X on it, right? It's like no, I'm not choosing that one.
Go.
No.
Right, no.
But the set looked very reminiscent of the original X-Men trilogy from like the late 90s, early aughts.
Probably coincidental. They probably didn't mean to do that. It just happened.
Yeah. They were like, where are we gonna shoot this thing? How about this place? It looks like it could be X-Men-ish. I already had an X on the door. So like Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel think that, Monica Rambeau is gone, though maybe they don't want to say that she's dead, but really they're thinking we got to move on. This is a loss. She's not dead. She's actually with the X-Men from another universe. And so at some point that universe is going to collide with this MCU that we know.
Yeah.
Which
would be exciting.
Probably through Monica, right? Because Monica clearly has enough ability to make that jump, and she already did. So there'll probably be an extension of that through Binary, her and Binary.
Well, I was thinking, but she didn't open up the portal, right? Wasn't that Ms. Marvel who opened up the portal with her bangle things?
With the bangles.
Her quantum bands?
Yeah, the quantum bands.
Yeah, so I don't know how she's going to get back. She doesn't have those. But maybe they have something like that in this multiverse. I don't know.
That's
maybe the Beast can figure it out. He's smart, right? He'll figure it out. She'll tell him what happened, and then he'll be like, okay, well, maybe we can reverse engineer something similar.
But I think it was Captain Marvel's powers through the bangles. Right? Like she shot at the bangles.
Like she shot at Ms. Marvel.
Ms. Bangle? Maybe. Yeah, so she should just be.
They got some work to do.
Yeah. So these things are gonna come together. Like.
Well, so are you excited? Were you like, oh, or nah?
I mean, was I excited? I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, we all know that X-Men are coming. The X-Men are coming. This is like the big thing that the MCU is banking on. It was good to finally see something where it's not just a tease, right? Like the Patrick Stewart. No, but Patrick Stewart as Professor X before, and then he dies. And just as soon as they introduce him.
Okay.
Right.
So like it gets erased.
This we know is now part of the story.
It now has consequences.
It's gonna happen. These are the version of the X-Men that I'm pretty sure are gonna be merged with the current MCU.
I would rather have the other Beast, the one from like Days of Future Past.
Yeah, like I don't think they can.
I don't need Kelsey Grammer.
Are they going to be casting Patrick Stewart again? Like that doesn't seem smart. Like
I'm okay with
future proofing.
I could use Patrick Stewart.
I mean, I love Patrick Stewart, but that guy's old too. Like,
oh man, you sound like the Joe Biden haters. All right.
Hey, there's a reason why we don't see him on camera a lot. All right. It would make a lot more sense to keep James McAvoy, right? And Michael Fassbender.
Love those guys.
Who are great.
But Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart were so great.
I mean, they're iconic for sure.
As their characters. Oh man, so good.
But if we see Ian McKellen as Magneto, he's also going to be in a wheelchair. Like that's just where we're going. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the shelf life is short.
Very ableist and ageist here going
Yes.
on. I love those guys. I just don't need to see
I'm just
Kelsey
trying to
Grammer.
get in the mindset of studio executives.
Yeah, they're definitely giving that to us. Don't worry. It's going to happen. All right, we got a couple of fun questions coming up here. So, okay, here's my little, this is the way my brain works, Brian. So I'm like, what would be an interesting question that the two of us could talk about? You know, nothing meaningful because we're guys and we never talk about meaningful feelings, but the NBA. So, you know, I love the NBA. You love the NBA. Your Knicks got a big win last night. That was pretty exciting to watch. It was my bad though. I turned on the TV and it was a pretty close game, and then the Heat went on like a 17-point run or something like that to start the third quarter. So I apologize. I'm sorry I caused that to happen. But it made for a more exciting ending to the game.
Little do you know that that's actually the Knicks' strategy. They do that every third quarter. It was just spot you 17.
The Lakers do it in the first quarter. They just are down by 12 no matter what to every team in the first quarter, and then they just have to somehow come back, and they sometimes do it and sometimes they don't.
LeBron takes a while.
All right. So if this movie, because it was kind of like, you know, it's not the GOAT. It's not LeBron or Michael Jordan. I was like, this would be kind of fun. We could, you know, get into some, how does your brain work here? If this movie was an NBA player, who would it be? Has to be current NBA player.
I mean,
who are you going with?
So to me, this movie has a few moments, few highlight reel moments, things that are fun,
like a slam dunk, alley oop, something.
Yeah, maybe like a turnaround, step back. Okay, that you're like, oh, okay, that was cool, or like, okay, right. this thing has like some legs, but ultimately those things,
Ivica Zubats.
No, so those things don't really add up to winning. Like this, I don't know that this movie won, but you know, it was kind of fun to watch. So I'm going. Yeah. To me, this is Zach LaVine. These are some empty stats here. We maybe a highlight dunk or two. Maybe you drop 25, but does anybody care? Like the box office says no. So it's fine. It's cool. But this is not the championship team here.
All right. When I used to play fantasy basketball, this was like Sharif Abdur-Rahim and David Lee.
Wow.
Those guys were they piled up the stats. Yeah. They used to get all the stats and their teams did not win. Darius Miles, he was also kind of a bucket getter, but not a winner.
Yeah, like I mean, you want to build the team around this. You want to build around Captain Marvel, but I don't know.
It's not carrying the load.
If that's
not
where
playing
we're
defense.
Going. Yeah.
All right. I went with LaMelo Ball for actually pretty similar reasons, I think. But entertaining. I laughed a lot. I enjoyed the silliness of it. I think LaMelo Ball is sometimes like that. He's like he's really entertaining. He does some whiz bang things you never thought of, like having a dance number in the middle of a Marvel movie. But doesn't always necessarily focus on doing all the little things that lead to winning, to success. Like, you know, he's not going to box out. He's not necessarily going to stay in front of his man on defense. He's not going to communicate those switches. You know, but a good time was had by all who went and saw it. So I enjoyed it. I would be entertained to see LaMelo Ball in person. You know, I don't think I would be complaining. Like, it's okay. Like, you know, it is what it is kind of thing there. So LaMelo Ball, get better at defense.
I do think LaMelo is more on his way than Zach LaVine. We've lived with Zach LaVine for quite a bit. And
yeah, he is who he is at this point. Yeah. But
LaMelo, I think,
is not really showing improvement in defense, though. And he's under a defensive coach since Steve Clifford. So it's not looking good. I'm not going to lie.
But he is definitely who they run everything through. And, you know, yeah. I think the ceiling is still moving upwards with this guy. Or he's still filling out the ceiling. So I think that's a very different trajectory than the Bulls. I would be more excited for the Hornets than the Bulls.
I think they're both struggling right now. I don't know. I don't watch enough of either of them, but yeah, it struggles. All right. Ms. Marvel is another side question here. Ms. Marvel, huge fan of Carol Danvers. She just like cannot contain herself. She's like doing the thing where she like just says everything that like comes in her brain, and like a lot of it is like, I love you, I want to be you, I want to be your best friend, you know, like right in her face. Okay.
Such a fangirl.
So we know that Ms. Marvel is like that. But Brian, you're not someone I think of as particularly prone to kind of the fanboy moments. Yeah.
The fanboy.
So I was like, who is someone who, like, if you met, who you would be like absolutely embarrass yourself with that fanboy energy? I like couldn't think of anybody that you're like that excited about in meeting in real life. I guess it could be a fiction character too. So like if you were like, oh, I want to meet Captain America, you know, I hear you, but is there someone that kind of meets that criteria where you just like would kind of lose your like cool?
Ooh, where I'd like wet the floor. Like, oh my god.
Like you just like wouldn't know what to say, and you would probably talk too much about how you like enjoyed like in them seeing them wherever you saw them before, like in their professional life or whatever. And you just like you're just doing too much. You're doing too much, you know, and you make it really clear you want to be their friend, and they have no like actual reason to want to be your friend. And it's not happening.
Oh my god, Wes, so it doesn't have to be fiction because this has actually happened. It already happened. I met my childhood idol, the guy I had posters of on my wall, the legendary Nick John Starks.
I thought you were gonna say like Patrick Ewing or something.
John Starks,
or like Willis Reed, like actual legend.
No. John Starks. John Starks is for the real fans. Okay, like Patrick Ewing, Hall of Famer.
He did one thing. He dunked on Michael Jordan.
That is not
the
one thing, man. That is not the one thing. He was a good bleeding heart of the '90s New York Knicks, and the '90s New York Knicks were the bleeding heart of young Brian Redondo. So
John Starks. But you actually met him?
I met him.
And it went amazingly.
I met him
as you
a decade ago. Okay, so I was already up in age, an adult. Okay. I had facial hair.
Yep.
He was doing a signing at a cigar store that was near my job at that point in time. Okay. My sister had told me about it. She said she saw a poster in the store, and she said he's gonna be there, signing autographs randomly at a cigar store. Because guess what? Nice. Post NBA, John Starks is into a lot of weird businesses, and one of them is his own brand of cigars because he's into cigars.
So he's doing promos.
So he was doing an autograph signing. So during lunchtime, my lunch break from work, I rush over there. I jump into this cigar store. I didn't even know it existed. John Starks.
It worked. They got you in the store.
John Starks.
By having John Starks.
I'm assuming that like Nick fans are gonna be like, swarming this thing. I'm the only person in the store.
Nice.
The only one.
So you got him all to yourself.
John Starks is at the very far end, at the back of the store, behind a table.
Yeah.
You know, he's got like boxes of his cigars or whatever.
Did you buy one?
I am grinning from ear to ear. Like, I don't think my eyes were open because I was smiling so hard. You know, I just turned into an emoji and I was floating across the store. And, you know, he's like...
You look like an anime right now, actually.
I was. You know, I had like the huge like anime star on my forehead and the veins popping out. And like, oh my God.
I know the one you're talking about.
And I'm floating to him. And I'm like, oh my God, John. You are my hero. I loved you as a kid. You're my favorite Nick of all time. And oh my God. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying. And then the guy that works at the store is like, hey, you want a picture with them? You just got to buy some cigars. And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'll buy some cigars. And they're like asking me like, which kind of cigars do you prefer? Do you like the darker ones? Do you like more?
You're like, I just want the picture. Just give me a cigar.
I'll buy these. And then they like send me back to the front of the store where the register is. I buy the cigar. I don't even remember how much they cost. They might have been $1,000. I don't know. And then I bring that.
And John Starks is left. He bounced.
He might as well have. I walk back to the store where he is, and he signs the box of cigars. He signs a copy of Cigar Monthly or some magazine, some cigar magazine that he's on the cover.
Cigar Aficionado.
And I'm I'm like trying to be buddies with this guy. I'm suddenly like talking about the current state of the Knicks, who are obviously bad at that point in time. I'm like, what do you think of the Knicks? Oh my God, maybe you could suit up. It would be great if you could just play because you were amazing. like, and he's starting to do this, okay, like smile and nod thing. Okay. But I'm the only person there. So I'm like hanging out too long. I take multiple photos with him. I have this great photo where both me and John Starks are holding up cigars. What could be better than that?
Sounds amazing.
Somebody has noted that I think I posted this online. People have noted like, oh, you're holding wrapped cigars, which I guess is uncool. But whatever, it's with John Starks, and it's just like dream come true. Dream come true.
Yeah.
And he was a sweet guy. Like, you could tell that he's just really nice. You can tell that he's used to this also. Like, this man, he could walk down any block in Manhattan, and the same thing is probably going to happen at some point during that day.
It's different though if you're on the street, on the sidewalk, yelling at somebody because you're outside. It's really different though if you're yelling at this man indoors behind, like, in a closed space.
He's trapped. That's what that is.
Right, yeah, and you're just yelling at this man.
It's kind of weird because they trapped me and then I trapped him.
Nice. You got trapped into buying a bunch of cigars, but hey, that's cool.
I still got them.
I'm glad that it worked out. You got a picture out of it. Send us the picture. We can put that up on the Instagram. I'm very glad I asked this question.
So
my answer is not as cool.
Wes, I think you're a gusher. I'm gonna throw that out there. I think Wes is a gusher, and you would fan really hard for Pau Gasol.
Oh, I would. Pau Gasol would be awesome. Probably not the way that you did for John Starks. But also, Pau Gasol is like very, I feel like, easygoing. I feel like he would just be willing to talk to anybody as long as he wasn't having to do anything else or like run away and go do, some kind of appearance or something. I met the guy that plays Doogie Howser.
What? What's his name? Neil Patrick Harris.
I met him. My friend had a friend or something who was on on a show with him. It was with like Tony Shalhoub. It didn't last very long. It was a funny show, and we went to a taping and we got to meet them afterwards. They kind of came out after the taping and hopped on with people or whatever.
Wait, you're friends with celebs? That's what you're saying here. You had a friend that was in the show with Neil Patrick Harris and Tony Shalhoub.
Well, I'm telling you how far away this is removed to actually like me being actual like. Acquaintances with this person. I wasn't, let's say. So anyways, I go up, like he comes out or whatever, and he kind of like says hi to people, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but he, I must have said something around like, hey, like I really liked you, Doogie Howser, because that's all I had really known him from before at that point, and this had been, many years since he was a kid doing this. He was an adult now at this point. And then I think someone told me later, like, oh, he really doesn't like it when like people talk about Doogie Howser. So he probably did not enjoy any of the conversation that he had with me. I don't think there was a conversation. I think he just said hi, but it didn't seem like it at the time. He just kind of said thanks and then, moved on. But
you were not a fanboy for Doogie Howser.
No. You know who was cool meeting? I met Michelle Kwan at a bar. That was weird.
Were you single? Were you hitting on her?
I was probably single. I was not hitting on her. But afterwards I was like, oh, she's cool. She's like attractive.
How would you even recognize Michelle Kwan? Like, I would not be
She
able
was
to
friends with Michelle Ewan or something. Or Michelle Ewan was friends with her brother, and then her brother was at the same bar, and she had come through.
Michelle Ewan, who we went to college with. Sort of.
I don't think we went to college with her. I think she was before
but we
us,
know her from the alumni association thingies.
Correct.
But Wes, you have not answered the question.
Okay.
Who are you fanboying for?
Who am I really losing it
for?
Who
are you going to squeal? Hit new notes in your vocal register that you didn't even know you were capable of.
I can hit those whistle notes, Brian. Little do you know. Okay, so I thought about this and I was like, my first thought was like President Obama. I would love to meet President Obama. He just seems like got together. He would like have a great conversation with him, but I don't think I would fanboy over him because he does seem kind of down to earth in some ways that it's hard to like really get, crazy about it for him. So but that got me thinking, there is a president in my life who I spent many hours with and think the world of, to the point where I'm like, this fictional president in some of my brain, I'm like, he could be the real president, even though he's like on TV.
Morgan Freeman.
So that president, Martin Sheen.
Oh my God. The West Wing fanboy has arrived.
I watched so much West Wing in like college and after college. In my head, he's kind of the president from that time period. It's like, I don't remember George W. Bush always being president or like Clinton always being president. It was like part of it was Martin Sheen was president too at that point, I think.
It was the Martin Sheen administration. It's the Sheen administration, the Sheen era of America.
Well, it's Bartlett. It's the Bartlett administration. And I would definitely talk to him about Shibboleth, the episode, and about how he gave Charlie the knife. And he'd be like, I don't remember this episode at all. What are you talking about? Because it's my favorite episode. Shout out to, I think I would kind of geek out if I ever met Zach Lowe. Podcast. I just listen to his podcast all the time, so I feel like I know him, because you get to hear how he thinks and how he talks, and he talks about his life every now and then. But him, and then bringing it back full circle.
Squealing to
Natalie
Zach
Portman.
Lowe? You're not squealing to Zach Lowe. You're just.
I don't think I would squeal, but I would be very excited to meet Zach Lowe. I would be telling him how like I love his podcast, how I listen to all the time, how I have my own podcast too, and we talk about NBA sometimes. It would be too much. He would just be like, "Thanks a lot, guy," and then he would keep going.
He is not listening to Confidently Wrong.
Not at all.
No subscribe.
He does not want to hear my talks or my takes on the Lakers at all.
And you were saying you're going to come full circle.
So we talked earlier about how Natalie Portman had huge biceps. Her run in Star Wars and then in Garden State, and then
her run in the Garden State trilogy, the Garden State universe,
the Zach Braff universe.
The Zach Braff universe.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like enjoy seeing her movies. I think she's great, and if I ever met her, I think I would be like a little too much. Would you
seem like you're in love with her when you meet her? Where are there heart eyes?
Yeah, probably
emanating from
probably too much.
It'd
be too much. Yeah, it'd be way too much.
Oh my God, that's restraining order, Wes. That's restraining order, Wes. We have not met your true form.
All right, so that's where I'm going with. Let's give your final rating on the Marvel of Brian. Where are you going with this? You could give it, since you all hate how I do it, so you can do 1 out of 10 or 1 to 10. You could do 1 to 5. You could do letter grades. You could do whatever stupid system you want. How are you rating this?
I'm gonna give it 2 Marvels out of 3 Marvels. No, I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I gave ratings to Ant-Man and Doctor Strange. We have
Same
to put
as those
it in context.
Yeah, you could do it relative.
I want to say I don't remember what scores I gave those movies, but I want to say this one is somewhere in the 3 point something out of 5 range.
Do you think it was better than Ant-Man?
I think no, but it's close. It's close.
Right.
One thing that this movie, as I said, has going for it, in a way, oddly enough, is that it does treat itself lightly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can get through it based on that. But like even me describing it as getting through it is not high praise.
No, it's not.
It's better than Love and Thunder. I'll give it that.
All right.
And it has its moments. It has its moments, but I think all of us Marvel fans, we have come to expect something.
Yeah.
And very little of what's coming out has delivered on that. I think we are all hankering for something more.
I think that's true. Although I really did like Loki.
I did like Loki too.
Yeah. We haven't talked about the ending of that one on the pod, but
quite an ending.
Like it. Yeah,
quite an ending.
It was cool. Didn't have anything to do with Marvels, but I liked it.
Maybe, hopefully it does come full circle and it does have an impact on Monica Rambeau and the multiverse and Loki in a chair is somehow involved. Who knows? Who knows?
I'm going 7 Ms. Marvel Bengals out of 10.
7 Bengals.
Yeah, 7 Bengals.
There were only 2, but maybe there are more. Cool.
It's like the 10 rings. Okay, 7 Shang-Chi rings out of 10. No, the Bengals. 7 Bengals. That's not necessarily a C. To me, like if I was getting a letter grade, I'm going like B-. I did really enjoy it. I didn't have a problem with like all of the plot points that people are like, like this should have happened or that should have happened. And it's like, whatever. She punched the sun. It's cool. I mean, like, this is comics. Like, crazy things can happen, and it's awesome. So I was okay with that.
Boo! I hate that. Why would you say that? This is comics. That just means that you look down at comics.
No,
that's what that means. You just feel
fantastic
like
things can happen.
Stupid medium.
No, fantastic things can happen that are outside of our understanding of, you know, how things in the physical world might work. There's a multiversal story. That's not something we can explore in real life, but like we're doing.
It's not the fact that it's fantastical. It's the fact that it's poor storytelling.
All right, that's fine, but I didn't mind it. It was cool.
Okay.
All
right.
I liked it. Punch the sun more often, guys. I like that.
Also, Bangles and the 10 Rings related?
Yeah. Seems like it. I think.
But what?
I don't know what. We're going to find out. But they do seem related.
We have no idea. We have quantum bands, which actually in comics lore belong to Quasar.
Who's that?
Another outer space superhero type person.
Dope.
He wears the quantum bands.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know if that's gonna be a thing to be followed up on in the MCU. Who knows?
All right.
But they're drawing a lot of random sources now.
All right, let's finish strong. Are there any holiday shout outs you want to give? Just kidding. You get no shout outs to your niece. Okay.
Is that how we finish strong? Holiday shout outs? Here's to you, Santa. Baby J.
We'll be
Here's to you.
Back? Maybe. I don't know. We haven't made plans, but I think we'll be back one more time before the end of the year. So check us out. We'll make sure we post on Instagram when we post a new show at confidently_pod. Brian, it's been great. Enjoy your rest of your 4-day weekend or so. I don't know how long you have off. Because you're also self-employed, so that also may not mean anything to you.
You know, I do what I do.
Yeah.
Here's to you, Captain Wes.
See you later, Captain Brian. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ms. Brian.
Spectrian.
Stupid.